I'm a member of STARS.
Hello, and welcome to my video. If you didn't know by now, due to the fact that I had dropped a video on a Resident Evil iceberg that I personally made myself, I'm a die-hard Resident Evil fan. I love to both speedrun the games and explore their mechanics very deeply. I had hoped to make a video to pass on a lot of information that I personally have from my own experiences onto you all, the viewers. I know that there are countless videos on YouTube about glitches in video games, and some of those are Resident Evil videos, but I personally feel that they don't really explain how or why most of these glitches work. Not to say that those videos are bad, but I wish they had gone into greater details, and I see that many people in the comments always ask, well, how do you do these glitches without necessarily getting any answers? I hope this video remedies that in a way, because I understand that there are people out there who wish to go and try these things out for themselves. I will also be focusing on the first 3 PS1 main entry titles in this video. This will be a part 1 to a series of me showing off and explaining cool glitches and the Resident Evil games. I like to begin with quick shooting, which is a trick that you can do in most of the early Resident Evil titles. Normally, you would hold down the aim button and press the action button to shoot. Essentially, you do the opposite by mashing the aim button while holding down the action button. If properly timed, you can shoot your handgun even faster, as well as the Magnum in Resident Evil 2. It's very useful for speedrunning. While this does seem like an exploit, it was actually acknowledged by the developers of the games and kept in the sequels, so you can consider it a hidden mechanic. That does not include the built-in quick shot mechanic from Resident Evil 6. There's also a way to do this in remake of 1, but that will be in a later video. I'll also like to point out that quick shooting isn't especially useful in the first game, because hit detection in that game is just kind of weird, and unfortunately that's the best way I can explain it unless you go and try it for yourself. The first real glitch I want to talk about is the Serum Skip. This is a Jill only trick in Resident Evil 1 that requires a near frame perfect input, and I have to say that I still struggle with this trick today. Upon encountering Richard, it's possible to skip the cutscene if you properly pause the game and enter the inventory screen as soon as the camera angle changes to start the Richard cutscene. If the cutscene plays out, then you hit the start button too late. If you see a glimpse of the next camera angle, then you did it just right. It's imperative that you don't hit the start button again until Jill starts walking, otherwise you will soft lock the game. The reason why it will soft lock is because you lose control of Jill if she's stationary, since her character model is triggered to be frozen in place for the start of the cutscene. The moment you see Jill start running towards Richard is when you want to press start again. Upon exiting the menu, the camera will be locked in place, but you have full access to Jill. You're then able to exit the room from the same door that you've entered from. When you do exit the room, the map will appear on the screen as normal, but now you're able to re-enter the room and interact with Richard, and then he will be dead. I think the reason this works is because Richard is always technically dead unless you activate the proper event flag for the serum run. There are a few interesting events that also occur due to this glitch, such as a cinematic border staying present until you activate another in-game cutscene, and Jill's head is strangely looking downwards as if she's still looking down upon Richard. You can deactivate this small bug by re-examining Richard's corpse or getting to the dorms on your way to fighting Plan 42. It's also nice to take note that encountering Richard will actually trigger the flag to pick up the serum from the infirmary and take it with you, assuming that you get bit by the snake and later on you don't want to waste any time getting saved by Barry, assuming you've already encountered Barry in another scene somewhere in the mansion. This glitch doesn't seem possible in the Saturn or DS ports due to the fact that those two versions of the game have very different loading mechanics. The Saturn version loads up way too slow, so timing this properly and even trying to really trigger it doesn't seem at all possible. The DS version allows you to skip cutscenes, so when you press the start button, the cutscene will then skip anyway. And plus, since you can beat that game in roughly 30 minutes if you're speedrunning, there's really no point to skip Richard. Pause canceling is a trick that has seen more popularity in recent years. All there is to it is that you simply pause the game between knife swings or even grenade launcher shots, and it resets your character's position to the neutral state. I recommend getting the timing down by conditioning yourself to only hitting the pause button once you've made contact with your knife or other weapon. This works because the game world freezes whenever you're in your inventory. You can utilize this glitch in order to bypass zombies safely, or even to be able to kill most enemies in the game with the knife with very minimal effort. This glitch works with both Jill and Chris, and it can be done in all versions of Resident Evil 1. However, the Saturn version has awful loading times, so in my opinion, it's not even worth it on that one. The chemical skip is an exploit you can do with both Chris and Jill. If you set up your character to face the wall at a specific angle, you can bypass the plant vines in the room where you obtain the armor key. It might take a few tries, but it's possible to do this in all versions of the game, including the Nintendo DS and Saturn ports. This works simply due to how collision detection works in the game, and since the vines push you, you're essentially finding a sweet spot where your character takes advantage of the vine's 3D models, pushing you through a safe zone, basically finding a magic pixel. While this might take a few tries, I suggest equipping the knife or another weapon, aiming at the vines, and turning around clockwise until you face this particular angle, and just walk alongside the wall by only holding down up. In the DS version, I find that you can do this more effectively by running. Just be careful not to get caught up within the middle section of the room, because if your health is low and the vines grab a hold of you, you can and will die. The Black Tiger Respawn. This is a bug that I have personally discovered. I've never seen anyone actually show this off or discuss it. While I might not be the only person who has ever encountered this, I definitely am one of the few people to openly talk about it. Basically, when you encounter the boss spider, also known as Black Tiger, exiting the room immediately after killing it before the death animation plays out will cause it to respawn after re-entering the boss room. This has to be a bug where the game doesn't trigger its disappearance if the spider is still technically moving. Perhaps it has something to do with the HP values of the boss not being fully depleted until it carries out the rest of the death animation. I won't lie, the first time I've encountered this glitch, I freaked out because I had figured the spider was dead and had long since disappeared, so I wasn't expecting company and it sort of jump scared me. I discovered this by complete accident because I had forgotten to grab the flamethrower with Chris, so I was forced to leave and come back. Before moving on to Resident Evil 2, I give a quick shout out to this weird crank glitch, where I've had moments upon using the crank to lower the water in the courtyard that if I would angle my character properly, then they would be cranking the air during the cutscene and not cranking, the slot basically to lower the water. I could not replicate this to save my life. It seems so hard to do. I've had it happen to me once or twice doing speed runs. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to it. If I can somehow manage to do it again, then I'll probably upload a short just to show it off. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 time. Invisible Bergen. In Leon's scenario, whenever you're accompanied by Ada and she gets knocked out by Bergen, it's possible to shoot rockets into the hole where Bergen's arm bursted through. And if one of those rockets explodes properly to where the splash damage hits Bergen's stored model a few times, or really just once, he will spawn inside the room with you and he'll be invisible.
What? What?
You can still fight him and take him out, and he can actually mutate and hurt you. Bergen's character model needed to be stored in this particular room in order for the cutscene to trigger, and thankfully it's stored right behind this little hole here. And this is mostly just us being able to exploit that. It's a lot of fun to do, and my friend's reaction upon seeing me do this trick in our Discord chat is honestly great, so I kept it in.
What? 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 Bro, I did not know that.
The hunk floating glitch. This glitch can only be done with hunk and the Fort Survivor mode scenario. When you get to the stairs on the west side of the RPD station, the tyrant will be on the balcony. If you get hit at the exact same time that you attempt to walk down the stairs, the tyrant will knock you off the stairs and into thin air. It's impossible to run freely around and even complete the Fort Survivor by exploiting it, shooting enemies from behind the game's boundaries. You do have to go back in bounds in order to trigger the camera angles to change, however. I'm certain there has to be other ways to trigger this glitch, but this is the main one discovered so far. The game gets confused thinking that you've triggered the stairs, which would cause your character to exit the boundaries of the second floor. So this is why you're able to go out of bounds. Getting hit by Mr. X forces Hunk to exit the stair animation, and this is the result. Fun stuff, and a little hard to do. Moving on to Resident Evil 3, let's talk about exploiting Nemesis. It's possible to exploit Nemesis in various ways all throughout Resident Evil 3. In fact, there are countless ways to set up Nemi to where he'll be held up or stuck into a piece of the environment, essentially turning Nemesis into a sitting duck. It's important to take note of the fact that you may want to get Nemesis to shoot all 5 of his rockets anytime you encounter him with the rocket launcher so that A, he can't shoot you, obviously, and B, he will be able to take hit stun. Nemesis does not take hit stun while he's holding a rocket launcher, so it's important to keep that in mind. A lot of these tricks work because Nemesis' hitbox is just super wide, and any area of the game where he's too big to fit through will prevent him from fitting through small spaces properly. He can and will still get close to Jill eventually due to how the programmers developed Nemesis to sort of turn left or right. That way he's not always walking in a straight line and it prevents him from being completely stuck. But there's generally more than enough time to take advantage of his big stature. Before moving on to the final glitch that I want to present, in the middle of me making this video, believe it or not, I encountered a new bug that I have never seen before. Again, this is something that I'm sure people might have accidentally stumbled upon, but basically what it was that I had exited the police station area when I encountered Nemesis for the first time, and upon re-entering after defeating Nemesis, Brad is just standing there in place. And I will say that this scared me at first because I thought he was alive and coming at me, and I just didn't realize it until it was a little too late to realize it. I don't know how else to word that. That's just basically what happened. But yeah, it's funny. You can interact with him still, and it still has the same text as if he were to be on the ground lying still. And of course, you can take his wallet from his standing body, and I can comedically interact with him and, well, walk into him. And finally, to end this video, is the park key freeze glitch. When using the park key to open the gate whenever you get to the park in Resident Evil 3, holding down the action button after using the key will cause all of the enemies in the environment to freeze. The reason why this works is similar to why the pause glitch in Resident Evil 1 works. The game world freezes each time the camera angle changes, as well as whenever you're in your inventory. This glitch probably works because of the instant camera change being forced upon using the key, and holding down the action button probably still detects the text box and confirmation, which will inherently freeze the game world. Essentially, it's a glitch caused by the game's own camera angle detection messing up. Upon releasing the action button, the enemies resume their attack patterns as normal. That's all there is for this part of the video. I hope you've all enjoyed watching. Please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, meaning that I can get monetized, and I cannot thank you all enough for doing so. I'll be doing live streams here on YouTube fairly soon because I'm kind of tired of all the issues happening over at Twitch that I hope they fix it enough. Thank you all for your time, and most importantly, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day.